staying on.
You know who
for as long as he wants to.
You know who I wouldn't want to play at Grand Prix New Jersey when they're playing Infect?
Tom.
Him next week. And the worst part is when you sit down across from him, you know exactly what he's playing. That's horrifying. It's here's a favorite hoplite. We are underway here. Getting one of round 5 from Columbus. It's a Temple of Abandon, and I imagine right now Tom is doing a little fist pump in his head.
Yes.
Oh, a green strategy, huh?
Although that temple is a little deceptive. It is green splash black.
Yeah. Temple of Enlightenment here.
A couple straight temples, because why not? And then the one Xenagos.
We'll see where this card's going to go. Bottoms up is an attack for 1. See if Ross has a follow-up here at all. He will just pass the turn back over to Bowen. Bowen has, looks like an untapped land. It'll be a copy of Land or Waste. I'll follow up here with a Voyaging Satyr before passing the turn back over to Ross, who will untap and take a draw step here.
But so far, this bodes really well for Tom. Most of these decks that open up like this, I mean, I guess this could be a Jund opening, but it's most likely some sort of Devotion Shell, given what's going on in Standard. And most of these decks just don't come packed with that much removal.
Ordeal of Thassa will come down on favorite hoplite. Heroic Trigger will give it 1 counter. The attack will give it another, so it's an attack there for 3. Bones down to 16. Ross, of course, already qualified for our Players' Championship 2 times over. So we will see him December 20th and the 21st in Roanoke, Virginia.
2 times over.
Yep. If we can clone him, Reed Duke's out of luck.
Yep.
Bowen with his 3rd land here is a forest from?
That is Urza Saga.
Correct. I actually knew that one.
Tom looks like he got his lands from the draft box.
Gotta keep it cheap.
He's got to step his basic land game up a little bit.
So I think everything's working out just fine for Tom. Why change anything?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Here's a Courser. Take a look at the top card. Genesis Hydra. We're going back Ross's way. Ross will draw a card. Looks like a copy of Defiant Strike added to the grip. This is a Stratus Walk. We're going to the skies, baby.
Burr, 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 burr.
We'll draw a card. Stratus Walk's going to give him flying. Now here is Defiant Strike. If you guys aren't familiar with that one, you probably were last week. From Ivan Chen, making this card looks just like a random piece of garbage into a constructed playable.
And with the Genesis Hydra getting revealed there, Tom now knows it's some sort of Nykthos shell,
yep.
And he can be very aggressive about loading up enchantments because it's unlikely Nicholas has any removal in his deck if he even does it all.
And one thing you know about these Nykthos shells with Genesis Hydra, you see the colors of mana that are in play and Elvish Mystic on top of the deck. They are so soft against flyers.
It's true. That's why you see them go to Arbor Colossus so frequently. Arbor Colossus is a powerful Magic card. It's not like it's a huge cost to put that thing in your deck, but it is about shoring up the air.
When you think about that, I mean, it does shore up the air very well. It's a 5-mana answer to a flying creature. That's expensive.
Well, it's a 5-mana answer to every flying creature.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But I wouldn't be surprised, and this is where a lot of people take advantage of this deck, is in the skies. If we do see players start to move towards Windstorm-esque effects, even though Windstorm would be more pricey than Arbor Colossus right now.
Yeah.
So there is that. Bowen going to pass the turn back without the land. Ross going to draw a card. You see he's got a Flooded Strand over there. He's going to put that into play. This is a bunch of mana. What is this going to be? Oh, Eidolon of Countless Battles. Trigger Heroic. Let's see if this is going to resolve.
And I believe this is lethal if this sticks.
It's large. It is in charge. Here's some mana. It's a Hero's Downfall. Does Tom have a God's Willing? Well, he can't sacrifice that fetch land fast enough, so I have a feeling that he does.
Obviously he does.
Why wouldn't he?
Deck even has a main deck Heroes Downfalls, and Tom still just kills him on turn 5.
Can't forget that God's Willing is going to trigger Heroic there.
Right, that's another point.
By the by. Tom Ross going to win game number 1 here over Nicholas Bowen. Blue-White Heroic up a game over Green-Black Devotion as we will take a look at the sideboard here. We will start with Bowen, which you have in front of you.
A Hornet Queen, a Bioblight, 4 Thoughtseize, 2 Reclamation Sage, 4 Nightlia's Disciple, 3 Nissa Worldwaker. I like getting the Bioblight in the deck. I like the 2 Reclamation Sages, blowing up some enchantments. I think the Nissas might be okay. They're a little slow in the matchup, but generating some colorless blockers is nice against a deck that's packing God's Willing.
On Ross's side, he's got 2 Treasure Cruise, and then an extension of his main deck here, which is something we saw with Brad Nelson as well. 2 copies of Erase, an additional Heliod's Pilgrim, an additional Ordeal of Heliod, 2 Laguna Band Elder. Aqueous Form, 3 Stubborn Denials, a Seeker of the Way, and then 2 copies of Johnny's Presence. When I say an extension of the main deck, you're going to find a lot of these cards in his main deck, like the Heliod's Pilgrim. He's got 3 of those. He's got a Seeker of the Way in his board to go on with 3 in his main deck. So, yeah, decks, I think people kind of oftentimes forget this. They're 75 cards, not 60.
Yeah, and there's some people have just high impact stuff in their sideboard, which is a fine way to approach it. Some decks like this, there's a little bit of hedging going on, or because you have something like Heliod's Pilgrim, you have some 1-ofs. Some matchups you want to turn those into 2-ofs because you're happy to just draw them. So there's a lot of different ways to approaching sideboards and how you construct them.
Tom does have an idea, I think, that he's against a devotion strategy, though it's an unorthodox one. Since we did see Hero's Downfall, we don't see that a lot. So I expected the Aqueous Form actually come in, just because being unblockable is really good against his deck that does gum up the ground because he won't always have the Stratus Walk to put him in the skies. Wouldn't be surprised to see a card like Stubborn Denial as well.
Yep.
Some decent options here, but I think part of the reason that Tom is playing this deck is because he's so good against these type of strategies that he doesn't have to change very much.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind here is, you know, the Genesis Hydra to me is a bit of a giveaway that Nicholas has to be some sort of green devotion shell. But Tom can't be 100% sure. Let's go back and look at the cards that he saw. He saw some mana creatures. He saw a Temple of Abandon, a Hero's Downfall, a Courser. There's no certainty that he's playing against green devotion. I mean, it's most likely, again, because of the Genesis Hydra, but by no means a lock. So Tom might approach the sideboarding in this matchup very differently.
These players will finish sideboarding, and as they do, we will talk about our furry friend, the last member of the Squirrel Creature Collection series, at least for now, Squirrel Confidant.
And just like all the other Squirrel series items that we have available, while they are the most recent thing, you get 2 of these free with every Legacy Open entry. And if you're interested in the playmat, deck box, dice bag, sleeves, you can get that on our website over at StarCityGames.com or head over to any dealer booth at an Open Series or Grand Prix that Star City Games is running.
Available now at StarCityGames.com. Heck, you can get them at Grand Prix, New Jersey next weekend too, though I have a feeling players might be playing with those Brainstorm sleeves instead.
I think so too.
So Patrick, an interesting question for you before we do start game number 2. I was asked on Twitter, watching you on Star City Games, and noticed you had an A in your Twitter handle. What does the A stand for? So before I answer that, there are some people who have, like, you know, the middle initial or a name. I'm thinking of a gentleman by the name of CM Punk who will not tell people what the initials stand for. How do you feel about considering that information while making it part of your name?
I think I can take it or leave it.
I feel like you would have strong, like, what is your middle initial? Don't tell me your middle name.
B.
So if your Twitter handle was Patrick B. Sullivan,
yeah,
and someone asked you what the B would stand for, would you tell them?
Yeah, sure. Okay. It's not, my middle name is Brian. I don't particularly care that people know this or not, so okay. I would be happy to reveal it. I'm always careful with the letter B, though, because it looks like you might be trying to say, like, the word B-E.
Oh, okay.
So I rarely throw it out there.
Ah.
But I'm not opposed to it.
I like that, Patrick B. Sullivan.
Exactly.
I see. Okay.
No, it's just...
Hey, you thought this through, much like Coco Beware,
the Birdman, right,
wrestler. Yes.
Correct. Hall of Famer.
His finishing move, I believe, was a drop kick.
I think it was a spine buster.
Wow, it's powerful.
Yeah.
That is really, really
We'll
nice.
go to the tape.
The A for the record is for Alan.
Okay.
It's for Alan. Nothing special about my middle name either.
Is that your father's name or?
My father's name is Curtis.
Okay.
Curtis Phillips. Nothing special about my middle name. I don't even know why I have it.
Okay.
No, it's not great. I don't like how it's spelled. Anything about it, really.
I was raised in a Roman Catholic family, so Patrick and Brian are both names of saints. That's how I got my name. That's the naming convention.
Fun little story. Elvish Mystic here. A favorite hoplite there. So both players with 1 mana spells to get the ball rolling in game number 2. Another copy of Llanowar Waste, and just passing the turn back over to Ross, who will draw a card. You see an island in his hand. Picked up a copy of Heliod's Pilgrim.
Or at least this is what I was told. I don't know if this is a joke or not.
I have a feeling the story is probably true. I don't think that you are living a lie. I hope you aren't. How about that instead?
Doesn't really matter to me at this point. It is what it is. Whatever the origins are, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Here's a Tranquil Cove. We're also going to go up a little bit higher. That is a favorite hoplite and passing the turn.
This is a reason that I love Tom. This is a subtle play. A lot of people don't catch this. Right now, his hand is kind of in the spot where he doesn't know what he particularly needs, even lands or spells. It's not super clear what he wants to draw at this point. So instead of playing his Scryland when the value of his draw steps are pretty flat, he plays his Tranquil Cove to save the Scryland down the line for when he has a better idea what he wants to draw. Most people just, without even thinking, just play the Scryland.
There's an island. Perhaps it's time for Heliod's Pilgrim. It is. We're going searching. Patrick, some feel as though PB Sullivan would be a good rap name for you, given your rap game.
Sure.
I think we should just call you PBS. TV station.
Oh, I have never heard that before.
You could get sued. It would be perfect.
Yep. There's already the red box thing. I mean, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Ooh, that's true. I like that. You got to stay low.
Yeah, I got to keep a low
Low
profile.
key.
I might have to ghost off of social media soon enough because there's already a risk of, things getting blown up.
That's a 4th Llanowar waste. Gonna fight that guy? Come on in here. Lucano's feeling a little frisky.
Well, I like Nicholas trying to take an aggressive line of play here. But this is the type of game, if you're going to say, all right, Pelucanos, I'm attacking, and in 3 turns I got lethal, with Tom having the board that he has, I think he's happy to play that game.
I mean, you got to try to get him dead.
I like Nicholas taking this line. His hand is what it is, but I think Tom can win this sort of game.
Well, Diothaso is what Tom searched up. Looks like he just drew another copy, too. So Tom is already under the gun. He's got to get moving here.
Correct. But you can see how much better a Scryland is at this stage of the game than it would have been earlier on.
Got a better idea what he's looking for. And trigger Heroic after playing the Ordeal of Thassa on the favorite hoplite. Got Battlewise hoplite over there as well. Looks like he's going to come into the red zone here. We'll counter there, so we attack here for 3 on Bowen. Life totals are even, it looks to be, as here's a Temple. But I'm not sure the game is even, as Tom's going to scry. Put that top card to the bottom. Pass the turn back over to Bowen, who will quickly untap all 4 copies of Llanowar Waste and draw a card.
Weird hand.
To say the least. There's some Manic Influence.
Sure.
Yes. Even a little more painful. Why not?
These points of damage probably don't matter that much.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, yeah.
Oh, no. Wait, sorry. I'm sorry. I meant they matter a ton.
I think we have 1 incoming. Yes, Elvish Mystic joining the party. Bowen will have to take 1 to cast it. And it seems like almost everything else. He's tapping some mana now. That's Nylea. Doesn't have to take any to cast that.
Nice.
Ha-ha! And now the chump blocking plan that Ross may have had is now off of the table. As Pelucanos gets trampled. Of course, Nylea does not. Grants everything else trampled, though. Though we should note that Nylea is on. Devotion is 5.
It's a big swing here for Nicholas. Really good turn. I mean, he needs to threaten more damage here. Tom's deck can produce chump blockers. I mean, random 1/1s and 1/2s along the way. So giving trample to his team here, very valuable.
Here's a God's Willing. Take a look. Top card going to the bottom. Looks like maybe a little bit of blocking here.
Just save some damage.
Yeah.
And a concession to mana efficiency now that Tom is very much under the gun. I mean, likely to die next turn.
Looks like he may have picked up a copy of Stratus Walk. See if Tom can finagle his way out of this situation.
Well, I know he can cast 2 enchantments, so that's +2, gets him to 4, plus attack trigger is 5, plus the ordeals is 6, 7. But Nicholas is at 13, so that's not going to get it done.
And Tom is only at 9. There are some big creatures on the other side of the table.
Yeah, Tom is going to get mushed next turn, so.
That's a technical term.
It is precise.
Mushed.
He's going to get mushed.
Stratus Walk. Trigger. Draw 1. Feat of Resistance is what he found. Off the cantrip. It's an attack. Trigger and trigger. 2 cards coming for the boss. See what he's able to put together on this turn. An unsummon-esque effect would be brutal.
It'd be really sweet. I don't think he really has any of that to bring to the table here. No Devouring Lights, nothing to play to the board. And that's kind of the nature of this deck. I mean, it's creatures and creature enchantments and lands, so it doesn't leave a lot of room for much else.
It is very straightforward in what it does. And if what it does is good, the deck is very good. And if what it does the opponent is prepared for, I can't imagine it's very good at all. But it's been good so far. Ross is sitting at 4-0, and he's currently up a game, though Bowen is looking to even things up here with maybe just an attack this turn.
Well, if he chump blocks the Nylea and puts something in front of Pelucanos, it's exactly... I think Nicholas may have been able to just attack and hope. See here in a moment. Okay, this is a safer route.
A little bit of life gain, eh?
Because I think Nicholas could have just jammed and gotten the kill if Tom has nothing. This is slightly safer.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, Nylea's Disciple is going to get him a bunch of life. He's going to go up to 15. Now he gets to attack with these big creatures. Pelucanos, of course, has trample. Nylea does not, but Nylea's devotion is not going to get turned off here.
Yeah, and this is a lethal attack. It forces some response out of Tom.
Yep. Here's some blocks. You see Tom just have a copy of God's Willing in the grip. He will cast that on the Battle-Wise Hoplite. Now it's going to get a little bit bigger, and there will be some scry action here as well. The Hoplite will let you do that, as will the God's Willing. So top card to the bottom. Scry from the God's Willing. Where are you going? This one needs to think about a little bit more. That's going to go to the bottom as well. Now, of course, Heliod's Pilgrim. Well, that's gone. A little trample damage there. Ross will take 4, I believe, go down to 5. And he will untap. It's time to draw. Can he deal 15 is the question. The draw was a copy of Heliod's Pilgrim.
So a Pilgrim can go get an Aqueous form, which can go onto the Battle-Wise Hoplite. So that's 4 points of damage there, plus 9. So he's still pretty far away.
Ross going to go reaching for mana. Slow down a little bit.
And I don't think singing Bellstrike gives him another turn, because there's just too much mana and power in play.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could happen here is, if he gets a Bellstrike and hoping that Nicholas does make a mistake, though he is playing and searching.
Oh! Never mind.
Well, what a surprise. He's already ready for this.
I was not anticipating him bringing in Ordeal of Heliod against a deck that looked like it could have been Jund.
Well, he does have one of those in his main deck, and he does have another one in his sideboard, so there is a world that exists where he just said, I'm just going to leave this one in.
Just the one, yeah, sure.
That said, Ordeal of Heliod, gain 10. Ever heard of it?
It's make it 11.
Absolutely. Nice little turn there. He's at 15. Hey, tie game.
Yep.
Not really. Bowen's going to go down to 8. But Tom is actually keeping his head above water now all of a sudden. And now it's actually on Bowen to figure something out. 10 lives is a lot of life.
Just another example of Houdini getting out of the trap door yet again.
And now there's some chump blockers back on defense. Again, Nylea, the devotion has been satisfied. We know that, but it doesn't trample. So Bowen's going to have something nice this turn. That's sneaky, Tom Ross.
I know. And we can circle back to last turn where Nicholas had the option of shove and lose to anything, or play it safe and play the Nylea's Disciple. This looked really safe. It turns out this might have been not as safe as Nicholas thought, because Tom's powering through.
Now Bowen's trying to figure out, okay, here are your creatures. You've got a 3/3 Battle-Wise Hoplite. You have a 1/3 Heliod's Pilgrim. All right, that's fine. You have one card in your hand, but you're tapped out, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about Devouring Light either, because he's only got 2 creatures back. Bowen's got some pretty big green creatures out there. Most of them have trample besides Nylea, though its devotion has been met. But how can he force the necessary points of damage? Let's also keep in mind, too, probably doesn't want to deal himself too much damage to his lands anymore.
Well, it's boom or bust here. If Tom has any way to target a creature next turn, it's just lethal. So if there's no way to gain life here.
There's a Courser. The top card is going to reveal it as a Bile Blight. Here's some mana. Oh.
All right.
Right back in Tom's face. It's Nylea's Disciple. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's up to 19. Okay. And now we're attacking. Look at the back and forth here. Looks like Bowen's just going to send in with the 2 big dummies. See how Ross wants to block, if he wants to block at all. It's not a lethal attack.
No, I think Nicholas would have been better served by just attacking as the first order business, because maybe blocks go differently.
Okay. Don't give up that information.
Well,
He's empty-handed now, too.
Tom may have had a chump block or evaluated certain things differently. Now all the information's face up on what he has to beat.
Tom going to take 7. He's down 8. He's going to untap. He's got to deal 19 points of damage now. He was very close last turn. Thought the ordeal if he'll be able to take it down, but both players gaining a lot of life this game. Now, Leah's Disciple a little bit better than I thought it may be in this matchup.
I did not think it was going to come down to quite this sort of damage race, but Nylea's blown up this whole game.
This is true.
I think Tom definitely had the tools to chump block and navigate the race otherwise, but trample on the Pelucanos is causing a lot of trouble.
Ordeal of Thassa will allow a little scry action here. Take a look at the top card immediately to the bottom. No interest in whatever the heck that was. You can see Ross's deck. It can win a game when it goes this long, but it doesn't want to go this long.
No, I think turn 5 is, like what we saw in the first game, is more what he's gunning for.
He's got crafty ways to get those last points of damage through. Aqueous' form, Stratus Walk, what you see in play. You see Ordeal of Thassa is going to break here. He's got 2 cards coming. Feat of Resistance, and God's willing to push through damage. He actually just drew a copy of Aqueous' form. Wow, here's a Defiant Strike it looks like he drew. This might be all before blockers, potentially.
Yep.
Feat of Resistance, bigger. It gets a counter from Heroic and a counter from the Feat. What's going on? Defiant Strike?
You got to be kidding me.
A counter, and then it gets +1/+1 from that. He draws from Defiant Strike. So this is 6, 12, 13, 14. I count 15, I believe. Unless my math is off.
Yeah, they're doing a little price check here.
Yeah. How much damage are you dealing me this turn? And now there's a favorite Hoplite. Pass the turn back. Tom with just 1 mana available. Who's the top card? Copy Nylia. That one doesn't help very much. Bowen's going to just quickly untap draw and get in with everything. And says, would you just die already?
Yeah.
And Tom Russ finally does. So Nicholas Bowen is going to win game number 2. Green Black Devotion and Blue White Heroic headed to a 3rd game.
Don't think against Tom. Just push them all in and hope that's good enough.
Yeah, just get him dead. Or at least try to.
Don't get trapped any further.
Both players going to go back to the sideboard here in just a moment. And while they do that, we will talk about Cardboard Crack, the sweet webcomic for Magic.
Yeah, everyone's favorite black and white stick figure Magic the Gathering webcomic is now available in book form at StarCityGames.com/cardboardcrack. Looking to purchase it or find more information. On sale now for $12.99 a piece. We have 2 books available. So if you are a fan of this webcomic, which many in the community are, make sure to head over to Star City Games right now. Pick up your copies.
One of my favorites.
Yep.
I follow them on Twitter. They get my Twitter endorsement, which should not mean very much to you at home, but they have it.
Sure.
So there you go.
It's big praise.
You get to work on your Twitter. You get to follow them. That's an order.
Now I'm not doing it to be obstinate. You've poked and prodded too many times, and now I just want to dig in my heels because that's the thing that I do sometimes.
Is that called being like a hipster, or what is that called?
Contrarian, I guess, maybe is more what you're looking for,
Okay.
but a child. We can also child will play.
I suppose that does work, yeah. Fulkin Loren, and if I said that wrong, I do apologize, on Twitter, letting us know that Coco Beware's finisher was called, you guessed it, the Bird Buster.
Yep.
It was the Bird Buster.
Yeah. I've been digging through the Superstars of Wrestling archives in my spare time.
So I've heard.
It is tough to watch, but I do love nostalgia. It's part of the reason that I'm so excited about Grand Prix, New Jersey.
Of course.
So close to my hometown, and the first cards I opened up, the first booster packs I purchased were revised, and so dual lands and, revised Birds of Paradise and lightning bolts and all that kind of stuff were part of my middle school years. So it's been definitely, as we get closer to the event, I can feel the heartstrings being pulled about the way that Magic was once upon a time for me.
I'm looking forward to Saturday morning of the event, round 1, and we take a look at the crowd and see likely 46, 47, 5,000 players all making a lot of noise during the players meeting. And then after Jared Silva, whoever the head judge with the microphone, says, round 1, you have 50 minutes, round 1 begins, the hush.
Yep.
Because it's incredible that many thousands of people can be that quiet.
Just the sounds of fetch lands and ponders causing people to shuffle their decks.
It's one of my favorite parts of a large tournament. They can be so loud, and then they can be so quiet, deep in thought. It's what makes it such a great game. The boss sitting here at 4-0, headed to game number 3 against Nicholas Bowen, trying to play the role spoiler with green-black devotion. Small splash of red in his deck for Xenagos, but by and large, he has a green-black deck, Doomwake Giants and Heroes Downfalls and all that jazz.
Only 2 copies of Eidolon of Blossoms, interestingly enough.
Yeah, we've seen some players, I think, move away from that in response to the Jeskai Ascendancy deck. I think you can expect more enchant removal, probably.
Well, there are 2 main deck copies of Heroes Downfall, though I suppose in other lists that can be Bioblight or Murderous Cut. But
yeah,
making a concession here to the matchup to some extent by having some main deck spot removal. Though we saw in game 1 against Tom, that wasn't enough, because God's Willing just swatted that aside en route to Tom winning the game on turn 5.
It's hard to say how good of a Murderous Cut deck this is. Probably not a great one.
No, it's not.
I mean, I was seriously impressed by Murderous Cut last week. Like, seriously, this is a 1-mana removal spell that's completely absurd.
And most of the removal spells in the format come with some sort of condition attached. We were talking about, Last Breath, Reprisal, Bioblight. All these cards work against certain things and not others. Murderous Cut is really the only throwback we have to, catch-all besides Heroes Downfall and, I suppose, Utter End, although that's much less efficient in most spots than Murderous Cut.
Well, players going to take a look at the grip. We'll see if either one does decide to send it back. You can see in Ross's hand, he has his copy of Mana Confluence, among other options.
Fairly land-heavy, it looks like.
Yep.
At least 3.
Might be a 3-land, 4-spell hand. But he does have the option to go first. He will take it. It's a Flooded Strand. We're underway in game number 3 here of round 5. Bowen will draw a card. We'll see what his first land of the game is. It's a copy of Temple of Malady. So, a little scry action. That's going to stay on the top. We go back Ross's way. Ross is going to sacrifice a fetch land and go down to 19.
Yeah, just looking for action at this point. He's got plenty of mana in hand. And there's no synergies with the Flooded Strand in this deck. Shuffling's not doing anything for him. It's just a mana fixer. So if he's a little land heavy right now, he should be thinning out.
An island is what he's going to search up. Ross will draw. Copy of Aquace's form and no creature to play. Maybe that's why he was thinking so long about his hand.
Well, he has a Heliod's Pilgrim and the mana to cast it. So it's a slow hand, but probably good enough to keep.
Voyaging Satyr going to come down here. Ross going to draw a card. It's an island. There's a Plains. There's the Pilgrim, so it's time to go searching. What he's searching for, we're going to find out in just a moment. It's our deal of Thassa. I wouldn't be surprised if that's his go-to search target a lot.
Definitely powerful, although without the heroic creatures in play, it's going to be a lot slower if he has to go through Heliod's Pilgrim.
Bowen's going to draw a card. See if he can ramp in anything. There's third land. It's Nurborg. This is a copy of Pelucranos.
One of the more problematic cards for this blue-white heroic deck, at least that we've seen thus far.
Defiant Strike. The draw here for Ross. Looks like he might be in some real trouble here. The draw has not really come together all that well. Though to be fair, this heroic deck is not one that mulligans all that great.
No, it does not. Colored mana is an issue, and having the right mix of creatures and stuff to put on creatures, it's asking a lot.
Well, one thing we know about Pelucranos, it can close the game out very quickly. So Ross is going to have to get a move on here.
And now Tom's in this awkward spot where he can say, I don't think he has God's Willing in his hand, so he can, for example, play Ordeal, Thassa, and Aqueous form. This is another alternative. This allows him to attack through the Pelucranos if he wants to, without having to be shields down on Feeder Resistance. But this is very slow. I mean, he's not attacking for very much damage here.
It's just a boring attack for 1, and now there's a copy of Hero Iroas, and just going to pass the turn back. So actually, you can notice that Ross is hoping that his opponent doesn't have a land.
Well, or he just has to make his way through this Pelucranos at some point to be able to start deploying his enchantments. That's the other factor here, too.
It does get interesting, though, if there is no land here for Bowen. It doesn't look like there is. So Ross is going to take 5 because, obviously, he wants to be able to go crazy on this creature. That's the big plan here. Let's see what this is going to be.
And to be able to do it with Feet of Resistance up, because then Nicholas is really going to struggle to get anything off the board.
Yep. Sylvan Caryatid is going to come down. Bowen is going to now play another Voyaging Satyr and pass the turn back. So the green light is on as Ross is quickly going to untap those 4 lands, the Pilgrim, and draw a card. A Plains is what he's found. He's drawing a few too many lands this game, it seems.
Still a sigh of relief here for, if you're on Tom's side of the table, to get to untap with both of your creatures in play and Feat of Resistance in hand.
Don't forget all the auras. They cost one less now. So can he make the hero really large? You see Tom a little bit frustrated with the composition of his hand. Has not played land yet.
Also most likely wants to try to figure out a way to make this Ordeal of Thassa fire off this turn so we can find more action.
Counter. Thassa's Ordeal is in play. He does have a copy of Feat of Resistance in hand. It's a little bit awkward right now, though. There is Aqueous' form. So there's a second counter. Hero's a 4/4 now.
And now he gets to attack. It's unblocked. Gets to draw 2 cards and still Feat of Resistance through all of this.
Oh, we're racing.
Yeah.
We are racing. Trigger. So looks like he may scry first. He will. He can stack those triggers any way that he'd like.
Yeah, those are both essentially when this creature attacks triggers. So he can scry and then draw or vice versa.
That card's going to stay on top. There goes the Ordeal of Thassa. Ross is going to draw 2 cards. He knows one of them. He was happy to keep one of them. God's Willing among the cards in his hand now.
God's Willing plus Feat of Resistance is a ton of protection.
Yep. Does he have the time? Does Bowen have any interest in blocking on this turn, or is he going to try to wait for future turns?
Well, he has no blocks this turn. I mean, one
I
creature's
suppose, yeah, that's true.
flying and one creature's unblockable, so it's just an issue of how much does Tom want to push.
There's Mana Confluence. He's going to play Battle-Wise Hoplite and just pass the turn back. So Tom rebuilding his board very quickly. All stemmed from that turn where Hero Rose made it out alive.
And you can see how colored mana sensitive this deck is. Even on turn 5, it was important that Tom have a Mana Confluence instead of, say, another Plains because he needed 3 different blue sources of mana. Also why Flooded Strand is such a big printing for this deck because, again, colored mana is a challenge.
Temple of Abandon here for Bowen. Take a look at the top card. That is going to stay on top.
And I think Nicholas is going to be in a lot of trouble here if he ever makes a move with the Pulchrinos because Tom has efficient ways to blow that up.
Tom is just going to take the damage. 5 more. He's down to 8. This is a little bit of mana. That is an Alia's Disciple. This was very important last game. It's quite good this one too. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bowen's back up to 19. Ross looking at a hand with God's Willing, with Defiant Strike, and with Feat of Resistance.
And now Tom has to figure out does he need to start firing off some of these spells in a turn to be as efficient as possible?
Stuff I imagine he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he's going to, so Ross will draw a card. It's another land, a copy of Flooded Strand. 22 lands in this heroic deck. He's seen quite a few of them in this particular game. We'll see if he can overcome that.
My Alia's Disciple has been really impressive. A lot of this has to do with the fact that Tom does not interact with his opponent's board. It just builds up. He's trying to ignore it by flying over or making things unblockable, but Alia's Disciple has represented a full turn of damage in many of these spots.
Defiant Strike. We'll draw Tom a card. It's a copy of Heliod's Pilgrim. Interesting stuff. We could see Gain 10 mode again here.
Oh, yeah.
And that would not be such a bad spot to be in.
And he can do it and leave up God's Willing because he gets to play the Ordeal on the cheap.
Yep.
Because of the hero.
Heliod's Pilgrim is a card that Tom felt very strongly about in this deck. Said it was underplayed. It's a way to tie the room together, let you cheat on, the number of auras that you have to play. You get to play some tutors like a 1 of Stratus Walk, like a 1 of Aqueous' Form. Aqueous' Form is so good in this deck that you want to play a ton of them, and Heliod's Pilgrim allows you to do that.
It's also just another source of something you can put enchantments on. I know that's not the ideal, although you just see a Heliod's Pilgrim with an enchantment on it from earlier. It's nicer than having to just play more enchantments and maybe get draws where you can't go anywhere.
Ordeal of Heliod does come in. Trigger, yes. Gain 10 life up to 18. He hasn't scryed just yet. He will now take a look at the top card, very quickly going to the bottom. So a lot of damage coming through. 1 from the Heliod's Pilgrim, 6, 7, 8. This looks like 9 total. All of a sudden, Bowen might be facing lethal next turn as he quickly untaps and draws a card. Ross actually has a nice amount of chump blockers back too right now.
Exactly, and no Nylea from Nicholas, so the chump blockers are good to go. And again, doing all this with God's Willing still left over. And all Tom is doing is hoping that at some point Nicholas makes a move here, commits his entire turn dumping mana into Pelucranos, and then God's Willing is too big of a tempo swing.
He's been holding it up the entire game, or at least trying, between that and Feat of Resistance. And these protection spells so important to this deck.
Yep. I mean, when your opponent's spending 3 mana on Hero's Downfall, or 4 mana on Utter End, or 5, 6, 7 mana dumping into Pelucranos, and you're answering that for 1 mana, it's a huge swing.
Another Nylea's Disciple. Looks a lot like the previous game. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 life. Big draws here from Bowen.
Bowen also with a Chord of Calling in hand.
Oh boy. A card that we have not seen a lot of since it's printing. Players have tried, so you have to imagine that it's not on a lot of people's radar this weekend.
Though Todd, I believe, was playing 3 copies in his list.
Yes.
So if Tom and Todd have been playing matches together, it may be on Tom's radar.
Disciple going to come into the red zone. Tom can't block fast enough. He will lose his Battle-Wise Hoplite to get that off the table. 5 damage will come through from Pelucranos. Ross got untapped. Still in a pretty good board position, but these players are slogging it out. Let's see what the draw is. I believe it was another copy of Hero of Iroas.
And the worst case scenario for this Chord is another Nylea's Disciple.
Yep.
The problem is he can't really go get a blocker because that doesn't answer the hero, and it's pretty anemic to go get a Reclamation Sage to try to blow up the Aqueous form.
So another big attack. And the draw actually was a copy of Favorite Hoplite. And now Ross will just pass the turn back with those protection spells at the ready. Bowen will draw a card. Looks like he has found a land. Landmore Waste, his favorite one.
Yep.
4 of those last game, 2 this one. He wants to take a look at Aqueous' form. Make sure he knows exactly what that does. It's causing a headache, that's for sure. It's a pretty good one. Getting to set up your deck. Creatures unblockable.
And then the plan here is for Nicholas to go, okay, go ahead. I'm going to Chord for Reclamation Sage, blow up your Aqueous form, and make a move to block. Then God's Willing / Feat of Resistance just kills Nicholas.
Yep. Trying to trap him, but he might be the one that's getting trapped.
Exactly. And he has to go get a blocker. That's the thing. Or, sorry, he has to give himself the ability to block, whether it's a removal spell or something that blows up the Aqueous form. A lot of really powerful components on Nicholas's side of the table, but Tom might have just enough trickery to get out of it.
He's a reaching. Looks like he's attacking. And Tom cannot block fast enough with that Heliod's Pilgrim. As this game, Pelucranos does not trample. The last one it did. So 3 damage is going to come across. Ross is down to 10. You can see Nylea over there in Bowen's hand, but he also has that Chord of Calling. So Ross is going to untap. He's drawing a card. Looks like it's another land, and he is attacking here for what looks to be lethal. Trigger. It's an attack for 6, 7, 8. He's reaching for Chord of Calling mana. And it looks like X Patrick will be 4 in this instance.
So perhaps just getting another Nylea's Disciple, which is safer than going to get a Reclamation Sage if you assume Tom has some sort of protection effect.
Now let's not forget, if you do it for 4, you can do 4 or less. So
Sure.
while he does pick up the deck, he may change his mind.
Seeing as though I think he would like to leave stuff back to block if he could, I would imagine he's not getting too funky here. Probably not getting a Reclamation Sage.
There's a Disciple. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 again. Trying to hold on.
Nicholas could really use a Nykthos. That would be very helpful right now, because he has Nylea in hand.
So some damage dealt, life gained. And Bowen is trying to figure out, how do I get these last points of damage through? Well, now he's reaching. This might be the Nylea that we saw last game. He's had it in his hand for a little while. Providing trample this game, not as good as the previous one, though.
It still might muster a lethal attack, though. Because if Tom could just chump block the Pelucranos, then 8 points of damage comes across.
There is Nylea.
Now, Tom still may be able to survive the trample, but it gets hairier than it would be otherwise, where Tom could easily chump block out of this turn.
There is enough mana there for Bowen to actually activate the Pelucranos. Or excuse me, the Pelucranos and, more importantly, Nylea with the +2/+2. So
Yep.
there's enough mana to do that. So right now we're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like an attack for 13 if you include like all the attackers plus the pump. And 13 minus 2 is 11. And here's an Elvish Mystic. Looks like it's going to be cast. That may have been a bit of a misstep, actually. And Nylea can't attack.
But I think that Feat of Resistance allows Tom to get out of this turn.
I do too.
Because it's +2 on the trample damage absorbed, 1 from the counter from Feat, plus a heroic trigger.
Of course, Ross has to do some amount of blocking here. Gonna go reaching. Looks like it might be time for Feat. You see Tom using the Flood Strand for mana there, as there's an Orborg in play. There is Feat of Resistance. +1/+1. Also a road trigger, another +1/+1. And it gains protection from the color of your choice on a turn, likely choosing green.
Yep. So this gets it up to 4 toughness, which means Pelucranos tramples over for 1. Then 6 from the Nylea's Disciples, +2 from the Voyaging Satyrs is 9.
9's not 10, is it?
It is a point short.
Somehow, some way, 9 is still not 10.
Tom winning the game at game 3 at 1, facing against vastly superior resources, is pretty much perfect.
Yeah, and that looks like it is going to do it. I believe that Tom, the boss, Ross, is going to win this match over Nicholas Bowen. 2-1. Blue-Eyed Heroic takes down Green-Black Devotion for the boss. As we said at the top, it's business as usual. He loves a linear aggressive deck, and he's really good at playing them.
It's perfect, too, because God's willing, that's not enough there. Has to be either a second trick or Feat of Resistance.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The